In the world of business building, we often wonder if it could get any more complicated. GRC, GDPR, ESG, zero carbon, green hydrogen, cybersecurity, and big data. Let's not forget the long funding processes that can make you crazy. If you are a world changing founder and innovator, how do you connect with the support that you need to move ahead? Well, this podcast puts the people, planet, profit through partnerships theory to action by helping you to see opportunities in every episode to create a meaningful partnership. The innovators, experts, and diplomats we interview are all looking for partners, and that could be you. No time like the present to find out. So, welcome to Frontrunners Innovate with your host, global business developer Mary Kurek. Hello, everyone. Today, as we approach the holidays in the United States, everybody knows here at Frontrunners Innovate, we're very global, so I have to say that we're in the United States. We are especially reminded of the giving spirit. It's a spirit that actually shines all year long, especially for our special guests who work with corporate partners in producing and executing impact programs in several countries around the world. Clean energy, education, scholarships, work opportunities, just a few things, but we'll learn some more. And I want you to be able to be open-minded and grab hold of this because these are folks that you rarely get a chance to meet. And I'm excited to be able to bring them to you. So welcome to Frontrunners Innovate. If you've not been here before with us, I am Mary Kurek, president of Frontrunners Development, a global business development consultancy connecting partners for business and impact. And I am your host today. Today's guests are Ambassador Keith Kirkwood and Manna Dabholkhar of let me say this right, Gift Global Initiative, headquartered in California. Their work seems extensive, really. After I've had a few minutes with Manna at the beginning of this conversation, I know that to be a fact. They're global, they're impactful, and I know there's more to their story than meets the eye, as I've just found out. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go to Keith first, and Keith, share a little bit about your role with the organization, and then back us up to why that has happened, if you will.
Absolutely. So my name is Keith Kirkwood. I co-founded Gift Global Initiative with Manna, originally from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and spent the summers in Lexington, Kentucky, which we're about to go to in a week for the holidays. Manna's
I
first
hear your
time.
voice. I hear that in your voice, by the way.
I get it all kinds. Sometimes people say I'm from Australia. Sometimes they think I'm from London. It's over the place. So it's kind of hybrid, So yeah, this is going to be Manna's first trip going down to Kentucky and seeing the family ranch and where my grandfather grew up. Wow. So yeah, just a couple more days we'll be there. But my level of interest in how we kind of started Gift and why we get into this was initially coming from an entrepreneur background. There was so much red tape getting through different permits when I had the restaurant business and getting into that aspect of it seemed like it could be more of a fast line approach to getting things done. You'd sit at these city council meetings and you would listen to everybody who was a business person trying to ask for different things. In my case, I just wanted to extend the operation hours, 2 hours, from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and you're sitting and you say, man, these people had at least in this case, they didn't have the business acumen, right? So they didn't really understand why. They just all had negative outlook about extending the business, right? But obviously they want you to stimulate the economy. They want you to the tax revenue. They want you to, create jobs. But then they will put all this red tape on trying to do so, right? The biggest hours to make money at a nightclub and lounge is the after hours, right? So it was all that stuff. So then I said, you know what, maybe I can be more business friendly, but as well as, the people who are the working man, because I was kind of in both sides. So I wanted to get into politics. And that's kind of where it started. And then when you get into politics, I was, here in Los Angeles, I'm in for like a LA council. So we won that. Once you're in that area, you think, oh, I don't have as much power as you think. You make these promises, but then you can't deliver the promises easily because it's not your money, right? You need votes and everything. So that was another chaotic thing. So then we thought, oh, when I met Manna came from the Red Cross. She'll tell you all about that. But she was like, we're able to do it more entrepreneur-like through the nonprofit because now we can bring in different sectors from the private and the public sector to get the things done that we really wanted to get done. So that was kind of the level, like the eye opener, for me. That was like, oh, you can do the work that you want in government, but take the business acumen and the entrepreneurship mindset and put it into a 501c3, into a foundation. So that I thank Manna for that because that was the first thing she taught me. She teach me a lot, but that was the one thing that was like, it changed my life, the course of life and how I felt I could do the most, So kudos to Manna. And with that, I'll introduce her and she can take over the rest.
Perfect. Mana, good for you. I come from a nonprofit background myself, and it is a business. You got to run it like a business. So I get that. So help us to get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. So as Keith mentioned, I was with the American Red Cross. I was the CEO, the youngest CEO for a couple years with them. And I was telling Mary before the podcast started that the organization got big for me. I kind of love to be in the field. I'm a person who, don't mind fundraising, but I also want to see the fruits of our labor. So we really enjoy being in the field, spending time with the families. And I really missed that aspect of the work when I was with the Red Cross. So when Keith and I met, I was just thinking about leaving the Red Cross. I was doing things on my own. And then he had posted, this is how we met. So Keith had posted a child on Facebook who had brain cancer. And I saw the post and I reached out to him and I said, you know what? I do some work with American Cancer Society and I think I can help. What does the child need? And he said, well, the child's in Mexico. Now, why don't you come and meet the family and then you can figure out what they need? So we went down to Mexico and our first date was in Mexico in a township. So that was how we met. We went down there, we saw this child, she was 2 years old, had brain cancer, no family, she was being raised by her grandma. But as we were trying to help her, we see there are like thousands of kids around us with the same issues. People have medical issues, they don't have resources, they don't have family, single mothers and no fathers in the family. We were like, you know what, we can do this out of pocket only for so long. There needs to be a structure to this. And of course, I had the experience with American Red Cross. So we decided to create Give Global Initiative. We started in Mexico and the US, and now we are in 17 countries.
Wow. Now, what year was this that you started?
We started about 7 years ago. So that was 2017 or 2018, around that time, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So before the pandemic, for sure, but I'm sure the pandemic probably.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a challenge for a lot of nonprofits. I'll tell you that. So it came out of blue and you really had to pivot. You really had to take a good look at your mission statement, your goals as a nonprofit. And because we did programs which were not, one of the things that is a foundation for GIFT is we don't believe in handouts, but a hand up. So we bring programs which would allow families to provide for their own kids so that they don't have to rely on the government. They don't have to rely on nonprofits. And with COVID, that kind of went out of the window because there were families who didn't have food to eat. So we were providing groceries and all kinds of things during COVID that we had not done before. And I'm glad we did that because many people needed that in the moment. Yeah.
We started sending sewing machines. Just to talk about pivoting, right? So we had a little entrepreneur program that we call GGI Works, which is just Gift Global Initiative Works. But what it was is entrepreneurship programs to empower people to work, make their own money, would give them some seed capital to create the business. Well, when COVID started, there was, they didn't have any masks in a lot of the townships that we worked in. So we started sending masks, but then, the masks were not a 1 week thing. It wasn't a 2 week thing. It was like, this is crazy, So we sent them sewing machines when we found out that a few of the women in the township know how to sew. So they started making their own mask. And then they were using those and they were able to bring them to the community. So instead of us giving the money to, one of those major companies that we know, now from 3M, we were going now into the local township, and the township was making money through the order of the COVID mask, So it was just an interesting way that we send machines and we got video and picture of them teaching, how to do sewing. So now after, COVID settled down, they're able to make their own jackets. So now when we buy winter coats for the kids, now we get it right from inside the township. So they create a little commerce business from that. So a lot of things are pivoting, but if you always have the business mindset, even though, like you mentioned earlier, that it is a foundation, that it is a nonprofit, it's still a business, and you got to operate in a way just like you would a normal, for-profit business, right? The difference is our business is helping others, right? But the thing is, it's still a business, like show business. You make music, but it's still the business of music, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
we were pivoting to, okay, how can we help this family do better so we can move on to another family who needs help? Not where you're just continuously helping the same people over and over and over, because in other words, they become helpless. They become dependent on you.
That's
so
right.
in order to empower them, we're like, this sewing machine stuff is great, because now they can just manufacture their own clothes. And then when the tourism come, which is kind of what we were pushing to go to one of these townships, because it was a Nelson Mandela where he grew up. So it has that nice, tourism feel to it that people like to see. But now these people have an opportunity to make money from the tourists coming in, not just looking and taking pictures, but also buying merchandise from, that's made with love in the township,
And when Keith talks about township, a lot of people here in the US don't really understand what a township is. These are shacks which have no postal or mailing address. They are on land that is owned by the government. So the government can come in and flat it anytime they want, sell it to a bigger organization like they have done in some places in Mexico. But these people don't have light. They do not have water. The kids travel, they walk to school 6-7 miles a day on empty stomach. They come home, it's dark, so they don't get to study. The women aren't safe because there's just no light, no running water, as I said, no hygiene, there's no plumbing. That's what a township looks like. And there are townships in Africa, Asia, there are townships in Mexico where we work.
Yeah. I was just going to say, what you're describing is something I've heard over and over again when I've talked to some of my friends in Africa and work with some of the NGOs there. It sounds very similar. I had no idea that so much of that was pervasive in Mexico. But I'm hearing
just by the
from
border.
you, that's a first for me to hear.
Absolutely. That's where we started. The child that I spoke about with brain cancer was in Tijuana, which is really 10 minutes from the US-Mexico border here in San Diego. But the minute you enter the township, it looks like a different world. There's absolutely nothing. And it's mind-blowing because 10 minutes you'll be in the United States and it's a different world. So that was eye-opener for even Keith and I when we first went down 7-8 years ago, to see how much not having a source of light can impact a child's life. We saw many of these kids have burn marks on their skin because they use kerosene, they use candles, and many times these shacks will go up in fire because they're stacked on each other. And then you see 9 or 10 homes are destroyed in that fire. Who gets stuck at home is babies and children. And we see so many deaths every year just from the use of candles and kerosene.
I believe it. Keith, I did see a picture of, I guess, were you doing some lanterns or some solar or something like that projects? And I don't know if that was relative to what Mana was saying right there in Mexico, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you're correct. We have a program called Sports for Solar, and we do it all across the world, in Mexico as well. And pretty much, as you mentioned, a lot of these areas don't have electricity. So they're using candles. There's a lot of danger in that, as you just heard from Mana. And we figured there's a way that, to just take it back and how that actually started was we were just in South Africa, and we were there just to give a speech at a healthcare convention, right? And then somebody asked us, like a tourist, hey, do you want to go see where Nelson Mandela is from? So we said, sure. So we just, like everybody else, just going through there. And as you get to the area, we're seeing people come out and they're greeting us, and it's not like Times Square. It's not like there's a million people there taking pictures. We were there. We could have a nice intimate relationship with the people coming in. Hi, how you doing? Can we see your house? And then just see the kids. And then it's really dark in here and it's hot because there's like 10. How I describe it is like when you're a kid and you build a tree house, but just picture the house being on the tree, but now on the ground. It's really the same thing, and maybe a little bit bigger. But that's the extent of it. It's just wood around it, right? Or 10 in this case. So what they do is they have this case of the 10, and it's so hot inside, in the dark, and you're like, so what's the situation? They said, well, we don't have electricity, so we use, candles. So I said, geez. Mana and I walk in. Mana's on crutches at the time because we played tennis, and she twisted her, or she fractured her ankle the week before we were going. So you'll see the video and the pictures of her hopping along on crutches. And the first time we've been to this area, and we're not again on pavement. It's all rough terrain, and she never been on crutches before. So she was like, it was a tough go at it, and she was great. She did it really well. But we got a chance to see firsthand, A, what was needed, and then figure out, why it's needed. And then that it's not, it's not something that we couldn't do. We felt like we could find solar lights. The first thing come to mind is, I bet you can give you guys solar lights. We didn't want to order it from a big manufacturer in another country. We said, let's see if we could find one close. And we did. We found a manufacturer, which we still use today, which is right inside Johannesburg. So every light that we buy, we employ people to work. A lot of the people that in the township work now in that factory, because the more lights we buy, the more work there is. They make all the lights by hand right there. And that's what we started. We said, okay, instead of just to go with the whole thing, we don't provide a handout, but a hand up, is we wanted the kids to feel empowered by earning the light. So we said, let's put together sporting events. A lot of it, where like sometimes the women never get a chance to play sport. They watch, but they don't get participation in the sport, especially like soccer. So we created Sports for Solar, where we put together sporting events. We get the kids cleats and the soccer kits. And at the end of the event, the kids get a mobile light and a cheetah plant, and they get, a couple lights. But, the idea is they walk away with the lights and a cheetah plant. So they go home, and you can imagine how they feel when they're bringing light in their home for the first time. And the mom looks at them and they're so proud because this is changing our life. So, the idea with these mobile solar lights, they're not expensive. I mean, they start at $10, for the smaller version. They go up to $25 for the bigger version. This is not something we go, we need $1 million of government grants to start one light. You know what I mean? To be able to deliver it. And that's what we found. You could sit and talk big numbers, but then the people that are there go, that plan takes 10 years. So even with that plan, there should be an immediate plan that you can get these people out of darkness and into light. So we created this program where obviously we encourage any like athletic companies or any sponsor companies, like you would sponsor the professional teams, that you could sponsor these kids. And many times these kids don't even have shoes. So when you're watching them, you're like, even during our events, you're seeing them showing up, and we'll give the kids that are playing the uniforms and the kits, but the kid's just walking around and you're like, his foot looks like a sandal, but it's a sneaker. But he wore it out, And these are things where you're always pivoting, like, okay, we'll create a mentorship program. So if someone can't sponsor a kid for the full entire school, maybe you can get $25 and get this kid a pair of shoes. These are like miscellaneous things that you just see that are kind of like, when you have a car, you have a tune-up, but there's little things throughout the year that break down, but you need little repairs. It's kind of the same idea. Like, there's little repairs when you're just walking around, you go, as a person, you go, I don't want to see no kid with those shoes, So someone got to raise $20, And of course, we see thousands of these cases. So that's the point of, it's not like, just give them $20. Sure. But there's constantly 20, you run a huge debt just because of the things that you see on the day, on the daily walking through the townships. So that's why it's so important to bring in people together that can say, maybe you're not there and you can't see it. But for us, it's important that everybody could see the content that we do, that we're not just in a high-rise office explaining, hey, raise money for this initiative. We're there. The kids know us. They see us. They give us a hug. It's like having a lot of children. In the same way you look at it being a parent to be responsible for your kids, we feel that same responsibility when it comes to all the kids that we work with, because they have nobody else, and that's the thing that makes you keep going and think of creative ways to show these businesses, look, you can actually increase your ROI by doing this work. Don't look at it as charity. Look at it as good business, And however you got to look at it to make sure your board approves it, you let me know and I'll give you the reason why it benefits, because all we want to do is get it, get the initiatives or whatever we're working on the ground,
So you just bring up a good point, though. How do you raise the funds? I mean, do you have events? I think you talked to me right before we went on record about one way. But yeah, if you could share a little bit about the different ways that you do that, where corporations could see how they, the phrase that comes to mind, bang for your buck, is basically your impact for your buck, but it's impact both ways, mutual benefit. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start up with a couple answers, then Monty, you can chime in with some of yours as well. But one of the things, for instance, with the solar light. So not only are you able to say, okay, we're able to check a lot of SDGs because of the solar light and the tree planting, you get all that check boxes. Fine. That's easy to understand. But also on that solar light, you can add a QR code. So you can actually use that to bring business or bring customer base into your website, your business, a coupon, however you want to do it. So it becomes a marketing strategy as well. Not to mention, because it's us from a foundation, when we're doing these events and then we go to, let's say, Time Magazine, right? It's not the business of, let's say, a major Fortune 500 company that has to pay for the ad spot. They're getting the free earned media because we're actually making the news. So the newsworthy story, all these brands get to capitalize on that media penetration because we're talking about, lighting up 50,000 lights, right? So now any brand, any sponsor gets those eyeballs on a global stage on a media publicity tour because they're covering it with us. We don't have to then kick that back over to them, as well as different celebrity, different athletes, where they would normally charge, let's say, a big insurance company an appearance fee. We're getting them to come down to our event because it's they want to be involved in the charitable aspect. But then any sponsors of the event, they, subsequently they get the impressions with that person or those people because they're working with us collectively, so we're able to save them money on that aspect, So there's unique ways. And then as Manu can tell you about how we make the content into real commercial. Instead of hiring Madison Avenue, advertising executive, we're able to shoot on the ground content of the products being used for social impact.
Yeah. Well, there are different kinds of funding sources for any nonprofit. So if someone is trying to create a nonprofit, you're looking at individual donors. So that would be like Mary, like Mana, like Keith, giving $10 and $5 and $100. So that you have your individual donors. There could be small and big donors. So there may be people who are individual donors, but they want to give you a lot of money. You also have foundations out there, which are 501c4s, which are created by people who have the money and the resources. They have the vision. Maybe they're interested in arts and culture. Some are interested in climate. They just don't have the team to execute that mission. So they put the money into their foundation, and then they will look for a 501c3, which would be a Give Global initiative, and say, hey guys, we have the money. This is our vision. Can you make it happen? And we'll be like, yes, we have all these different programs. Which one would you like? Would you like to do something in climate? Would you like to do something in education? And we do that for them. So that would be a foundation giving a grant. You also have government grants. So government will give you grants to do all kinds of things from climate, arts and culture, education, medical. We have different kinds of programs. So I really look at GIFT as a one-stop shop for all your social impact needs. So let's say you have a foundation of your own, but you don't have, as I mentioned, you don't have the team to execute your vision, your desires to do something socially impactful. We can do that for you. If you don't have a foundation and you have social impact desires and ambitions, we can do that for you. So it's really depends on the donor and what they would like to do out there, and we can design any kind of programs for them. We have a really good volunteer network in 17 countries. So sometimes these donors will just have to come to us and let us know what is it that inspires them, what is it that they want to impact, and we design it for them. So that's how nonprofits get funded: individuals, foundations, and then government grants.
Government grants being the last one I noticed, which is the hardest usually.
Oh, yeah, grants are always difficult. Yeah.
Painful sometimes. Yeah, I've been there, done that. I wanted to ask, so how do organizations partner with you, or programs partner with you? Because I feel like you have partnerships with other organizations or NGOs, or, I'm not sure how you do that, but you say that you can help the donors by funneling into other programs, and some of them I think are yours, right, and you've generated, maybe others are through partnerships. So how do people partner with you?
So it's not so much with the 501c3. So, you're not, when people bring, there are a lot of times that people will bring other nonprofits and wonder if we can work with other nonprofits. Yes, we could. Ideally, we could. But nonprofits are competing for same funding sources, right? So a Give Global initiative and if another 501c3 in the same space is looking at the same donors. But a foundation, which is a 501c4, which has the money, has the resources, but they are meant to, 501c4s are created typically as tax shelters for people who have money. They put it in their foundation, and they have plans that they want to execute. So that's how they do it. So those are the people or the entities that we partner with, 501c4s, foundations, who have the money, the resources, and perhaps they have a blueprint. They say that I'm really, I have all this money, $1 million in my foundation, and I'm super, I love things about climate. Yeah, what can you do for climate? And we'll say, we have sports for solar, why don't you fund us? And we'll get the work done for you because we have the logistics in place. We have the infrastructure that's needed to execute the program for them.
Yeah.
It's very similar to like if Share was gonna, do something. Share's not gonna, say, okay, for the next 2 years, because it is, running the foundation is like running a regular company, right? So if you decide I'm gonna invest the money in stocks, you don't stop your day job and then go to Wall Street and open up you have people that do that for you, right? You have your
Yes.
investments. So if Share says, oh, I want to do something with animals, right? Well, Share is not actually going to build a whole team around, most likely. She's going to find an organization that she likes.
That's right.
And then she's going to say, okay, let me give you my, amount allocated that I have for my charitable stuff, but let's partner with my name and let's help the animals get rescued from the shelter, right? So that's usually an easy thing. Same thing with certain companies, obviously, like, if it's a financial company, they're not actually out, they're in the business of finance, right? So they'll help that. So that's usually how they'll partnership with us.
And we call them like the other funding source that I kind of missed was sponsorships, right? And Keith can probably go into that, but some of these sporting events need big sponsors to step up, whether it's for uniforms, whether it's for shoes, whether it's just monetary sponsorship saying we'll just give you $10,000 for the lights. So we have companies do that as well, brands, and as he was mentioning, what they get in return is ROI. We give them so here's how I look at it. A big company, let's take an example. Let's take Nike, for instance. Nike has a budget that is for PR and marketing. And then they have a budget for checking off all those SDGs, right? There are 17 SDGs by the United Nations. Every company out there is trying to check those boxes off. Okay, so you have two separate budgets. You're going to spend your PR marketing budget anyways. Why not combine it? Combine the two and give it to a charity that is doing the work that you want to do, but now you get your PR marketing from it. So it's more organic. It's not that it doesn't look high gloss. Maybe you can do high gloss, but you could also do it this way, which kind of, if you ask me, an advertisement that will, people will look at it twice as something that's much more organic than having those traditional old advertisements of women drinking Coke on the beach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When it's a story, it relates. And when it's impacting real people's lives, then that's where you
and
you
times
get the
have
ROI.
changed. We are looking at a different kind of customers now. We are looking at younger generation who wants to be loyal to companies who are offering something back to the planet. So that's where we come in,
as well as employee retention. Employees have shown they like to stay with a company that they know has some sort of bigger goal than just them making money. Things that whether they encourage their employees to go out and do help, and help with the situation, whether it's putting up the plastic on a beach, once a month, or they do certain sporting events, whatever it is to galvanize the troops. But people, especially under the 42, which the millennials seems to be the first generation that really kicked that into gear, and the younger generations have followed, of looking for social impact things to get attached to. And if your company does something like that, we always use the method of like the simplest way to say is we can turn any company into like what Tom's was, Tom's shoes with it, so they became $100 million company very quickly because they had a niche. The niche was, they're not Prada shoes, but it looked nice that you could buy a pair of shoes that you were already going to buy, and then they were going to give a shoe to Africa. There was no GPS tracker. They didn't give you any data when you bought the shoe that somebody else is going to get that. You just take their word for it, but it felt good and the sales show, right? So if other companies look at that model and say, well, how do we become the Toms of the insurance business or of the finance business or of the apparel business? Well, this is it. We create these marketing programs that we can use social impact as your push of what your brand stands for. Now, on the GIFT, we have a media company. Now, one of the guys that runs our media company on the GIFT has won 12 and a half, I say a half, but like 12 daytime Emmys, nominated. So it's a real guy. It's a real guy who knows how to shoot content, but it's the content driven, like we say, we put a heartbeat to your business. And that's the thing when you're looking for viral moments or content that the board looks at and go, oh, look at this, we're doing something, it's not just about X's and O's, or it becomes the social impact things that people click on that and people can ideally get involved. So, if it's a Coca-Cola type company or a soft drink company or any of these brands, it's the customers can partner with them on making the, planet a better place. It's not just everything comes on that. It's running contests. It's running, different ways that, look, every time a player gets a goal, we're going to donate a solar light, right? But you can match it for tickets to win, a trip to meet that person, So it's all ways that we can creatively market things through the programs that we already have and or can create for the, if they have a certain idea that they like to do,
Yeah, very good. So scratch a little bit deeper from the surface and tell me a little bit more about some of the other things that you guys are involved in, because I feel like there's Gift Global, but I think there's more than that. So tell me what the more than that is, if you will. Keith, you want to start?
Yeah. So we also represent the Al Qasimi, the royal family in the UAE. And that ranges from a lot of different aspects, from folks that are looking to get into that market. Obviously, as we know, that's a big market now for business. Everything always revolves around gift, and how we've been able to leverage that is just like with Saudi Arabia, another emerging market. They have certain initiatives like they want to plant 5 billion trees by 2030. So if businesses are looking to make an impact in there, it helps when they actually can go align themselves with what the country is currently looking for, right? So we're able to take our programs and our initiatives, attach that to a brand or a company who's looking to get into that marketplace, and then look, they get them those meetings with the government officials, because now they're not just going into it with an investment opportunity or to acquire within. They're actually contributing something into the country, and everybody likes that, right? It's like a dinner party when someone brings a nice bottle of wine. It's like, okay, you get a good seat at the table, So
I like that. That's good.
So we're able to help with that. And just like with the governments, we work with governments as well, where the programs have become like a soft diplomacy initiatives, where we'll, if let's say if the UAE is going to be in South Africa, we can bridge the two countries together. Obviously, the point of diplomacy is to strengthen the relationships between countries, but there has to be work done to do that, right? Not just talk in meetings. So we put the talk into action, right? So that's kind of how the NGO side becomes more of a kind of the high gloss side of it, because now we work with the, the royal family, or we work with the ministries of governments to kind of bring everything together. But of course, the private sector always wants access to the government, right? And we kind of give them that opportunity where even here in the United States, it could be a big, a box retailer that wants to get into a marketplace. There's some problems because, communities don't always want a big store in there, right? And they say, okay, well, we got to do something to figure out that, we care about more than just making the money, from you guys. You want to contribute something. Well, that's usually not their business. So they hire lobby firms and they try to figure out, what the nuances is to get the okay to get the store built, right? So again, putting the heartbeat to the business is saying, look, you got to do more, guys, not just buy a banner and stick it on the front of a Little League field. We got to create something like our after school program, where it becomes like Sports for Soul, the same idea, where now it becomes after school program where parents work. A lot of times they don't have babysitting. They can't pay for babysitters. So if you can help with an after school program where the kids can stay later in school but play organized sports, now you're helping. Now you're helping the community. Now the parents will appreciate actually what you're doing for the community, not just building a store, right? And you can also say, we're going to do like job fairs where you get the first dibs at, getting hired if you're looking for, for the job, right? So then the local officials, they come down because they want to do the after school event. So now you'll get like the senators come in, and the private sector goes, hey, I wanted to meet this guy, So we're able to bring people together through pushing, again, the social impact stuff, like the things that they talk about, we actually put it into action. But it's they care enough about that work, they all come in. So we kind of, we help everybody. And that's kind of the being almost like looking from the outside, you can see things more clearly than if you just have your own track of trying to get the store in there, right? You don't really see everything around you. Where for us, Mon and I have to have like these, wider lenses to kind of help them reach their goals, but through compassion, not just, commerce of bulldozing and, and capitalism, but also in a way where it's a compassion capitalism, So yeah, it's all different avenues that we've kind of been able to do it from, domestic to international,
I like it.
Yeah.
I do. That's the building of relationships so that it makes it easier to conduct business that leads to impact. So I like that. I wanted to ask if there's, I'm kind of leading to the last question I usually ask, which is, who do you need to meet to help you move forward? But the question before that would be, what are you working on right now, or what's coming up in the next few months, or as we get into 2024, that's the big thing that you're mostly putting your energies toward right now? Oh, you're on mute, Mana.
Keith, you want to talk about 7 Day 7 Emirates?
Absolutely. So
Yeah, that's the next thing that's coming up.
Yeah, January 5th, we're going to fly into the United Arab Emirates, and we're doing a big cycling event, 7 days, 7 Emirates. It's a ride for unity. So we're riding across the entire United Arab Emirates, the 7 Emirates. We're cycling through, just like Lance Armstrong style. And we're going to be doing that from the 6th to the 12th. Each market of the Emirates, we're going to stop. We have different, of course, press junkets. We'll be speaking with the American University in Dubai. We're going to be meeting with the Royal Office there. They're going to be cycling through different parts of it. So obviously now, initially the event, these things take a while to plan, right? So when we started the planning this, there wasn't a conflict like there is right now. So the initial reason was to celebrate the relationship that Israel has with the Middle East, and how it's peace. Everybody's trading, and now Qatar's friends with UAE, and so it's this wonderful piece to celebrate. And then when this come up, we weren't sure if we're going to be able to do it, if there was going to be a problem, all that. So we're going forward with it. At the end of this, at the end of the 12th day, we go to fly to Tel Aviv. We'll meet with the folks there, and then we'll go to the West Bank, and then we'll deliver medical aids and supplies. As well as rebuild a school. There's a school that's in rough condition that the money raised from the cyclone event, we're going to be rebuilding that school, as well as the supplies. So Mon and I have been training diligently on how to ride one of those bikes, because I rode BMX bikes. I really wasn't a Lance Armstrong, what it calls Italian racer bikes. So, Peloton
and
helped us.
That event, I should mention, that particular event has taken a new life of its own now, because it wasn't, like he mentioned, it wasn't meant to be, what it was. And now it's like with the conflict, now I think it's needed. It's needed.
It is. Remind me after the podcast, because I have someone for you to meet who's in the Los Angeles area, as a matter of fact, and who is a champion cyclist, world champion cyclist, who is a personality that you really need to know. He's been to Dubai. He just got back from Israel. So he's somebody you definitely want to talk to.
Oh, that's amazing.
Fascinating. And he's one of my clients.
This event is going to create about 365 million impressions. So when you ask us what's coming up, that's coming up so any brands, any people who want to put their name out there for a good cause.
He may be able to bring some brands with him. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that would be
interesting.
That's the very next thing that we are working on. Yeah.
We'd love to, it's like all these things take, it's the same that we talk about. How do you create it? Like, why, right? There's a lot of people that want to help. Everybody's always asking for money. We get it because people always ask us. So it's really creating ways where you're creating an impact for the person who's, sponsoring or donating or whatnot. And it just, this is a massive event.
Yeah. Well, we've had a little freezing episode. There we go.
You're riding to pretty much end it, right? You're bringing people from all countries together that have influence. We have the first female coach from Bahrain. She's like she's a big star with it, so she'll be riding with us. We have
female basketball coach. That's what you meant.
Wow, awesome.
You said female male coach.
Female basketball coach.
Female coach.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Another situation. So she's a big star, and we're bringing different people, like people that have special needs, paraplegic, everything riding in this thing to show, again, that the level of tolerance, as they call it, the Ministry of Tolerance in the UAE, is showing that everybody's changing sometimes the stigma of things, and pushing forward. So that's really what this is about, is bringing the world together. They have these songs, We Are the World, and they have Live Aid, and they have these major events to raise money for change and for different programs.
Let's be on the side of humanity for once.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, this is that. This is like the Live Aid for bicycling. And it's a little bit more,
This is awesome. This is awesome.
tricky on the, we got to
Yeah,
ride
I
this thing,
definitely
right?
need to hook you up. In fact, it's not just him, it's him and his wife. She's a killer fundraiser. She's written a book about it. She raised funds while he was cycling. They got about $1 million that they raised for Prince Harry's mental health foundation. So yeah, I'll get you definitely hooked up. The last
I'll ride
question
faster.
I know. I can't wait to get connected with you for this conversation. But the last question that I have for you is, who, other than sponsors and clearly people that you know, foundations and that sort of thing, and I want to hear from both of you. I'll start with you, Keith. Who do you need to meet to help you move forward, and be as specific as possible? You know, if there's certain corporations, if there's certain types of people that you need to feel like you'd like to meet that will help you move forward in any of these areas.
Yeah, certainly anybody in charge of corporate responsibility, as well as brand managers, brand strategists. Right now, we have all the programs, we have the logistical stuff all taken care of. But with any growth, all the growth means you got to raise more. You also have more opportunity to show, because you have more eyeballs watching the work that you're doing, right? Like this event, like Manna said, almost 40 million people are going to watch this. All the big, publications you can imagine will be there covering. But obviously, the stakes get raised, right? Because there's more and more, events that we do. When we first did Sports for Solar, there was 4 teams. The last one we just did 1,000 kids in one day. So you could see the difference between raising funds for 4 teams and to 1,000 kids is a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So you're always you're looking for, for just that aspect. Yeah, those 2 things, corporate strategy too. But
very good, very good.
And I would add, whoever is the top decision maker within an organization would be the right person to speak with at this point, because what he's saying is absolutely correct. But sometimes these programs get stuck in the red tape. It doesn't reach the person who's writing the check or saying, yeah, this is it. So anyone who is a decision maker within an organization that is really interested in doing social impact initiatives would be the right person to speak with for us at this point. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. So I am going to kind of leave it with that, because I've written down, like 5 people's names already that I know need to meet you guys. And I hope as people listen to this, they will self-identify. They will know that this is them when they hear it. And I certainly will be pushing it around myself. What you guys are doing is fantastic. Thank you so much for the good work that you are doing and where you're doing it in all these wonderful places around the world. So I want to say appreciate it, praise you for that. United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, you're reaching some. So that's fantastic. Very few people get a chance to actually say that yes, I'm making a difference in that area, and you all are doing it. So thank you for that on behalf of everybody who gets that impact, for sure. So I'm going to say, stay here. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody else. If you're watching this on one of your podcast channels, go to www.frontrunnersinnovate.com, where you'll get this interview and the ways to get in contact with these wonderful folks. And, we hope that you will. We will have a little bit of bio information, and hopefully they'll provide maybe some pictures, because Keith, you alluded to a video. I'd love to get my hands on that, of her on crutches, and the kids in Mexico. And whatever you'd like to share with us, we'd love to embed it and put it along with this this interview. So thank you very much, and I'll say goodbye to everybody, and you guys stay on. So until next time, happy front run.